topic for the day, as announced, we will be looking at the integrity in the gold supply chain uh, primarily because on the jewelry side, we do not have an expert currently on the panel. So, my friend Kinjal would be touching upon that subject, but largely it will be on the gold and bullion refining side. Before we start off on the panel discussion, I've been asked to speak a bit on UAE good delivery because UAE good delivery has been in the news for a while now. Say what I would say it's been a year since UAE for the first time the UAE good delivery got listed on the IIBX, Indian International Bullion Exchange, and the gold contracts are trading there, and quite a lot. I think it's about 5 tons that's been delivered and 5 tons, right? Six, okay. 6 tons been delivered. I know each 100 grams is taken a quite a lot of effort there, so don't want to miss out on. So yes, so 6 tons there, and silver we have had about 350 tons of silver being delivered on IABX. In addition to it, there's about 200 tons that were delivered through banks under the India UAE SEPA agreement. So in that context, it was important to explain what the UAE good delivery really stands for, and there are some myths around. So wanted to clear on those fronts as well. So it's been what? It's been about 12 years since the OECD due diligence guidance for responsible sourcing on supply chains of minerals from conflict-affected and high-risk areas were launched. These guidance were adapted and were designed to fit into the precious metals industry. This has been adapted by LBMA, and we also had the starting of the Dubai Good Delivery, which is now known as the UAE Good Delivery. RMI runs it, Responsible Minerals Initiatives. They run there. That's the other industry program that is run by the Responsible Business Assurance, and we have from the RGC, the Responsible Jewellery Council. So what's this UAGD? It's a direct adaptation from the Dubai Good Delivery Rules, which was started in 2005, and which adapted the OECD due diligence guidance framework in 2012 onwards, which has this 5-step framework. The difference between the DGD and UAGD is primarily on the governance structure, and it's not. It's quite a simplistic one. When I say it's only the governance structure, there's been quite a significant change that's happened with respect to administration of standards. Happened only in UAE, where the good delivery governance is under the federal government's control. And that brings me to explain how the UAE good delivery standards are administered. So DMCC continues to be the service provider in terms of administering the standards for the federal government, and within the federal government, we have this Emirates Bullion Market Committee, which is headed by a government official, and this committee is chaired by currently is being chaired by Minister of State for Economy, and within the Emirates Bullion Committee, Bullion Markets Committee, we have the Executive Office of EBC, where myself, Abed, my colleague here from MOE, and there are various other experts who are there on the committee who look into the good delivery rules, the amendments that needs to be brought in, the administration of it, and the complete governance is fully managed by the Executive Office and the Emirates Bullion Market Committee. And just not limiting to it, this is the only standard where we have the Independent Governance Committee, where we have about 5 members who are not directly related to the market, or they provide independent view on the various decisions that we take with respect to accreditation of the refiners. Further to that, there's also the Physical Market Committee. The Physical Market Committee looks into the technical parameters of the refiners. When I say technical parameters, we have, so for instance, to explain here, UAE Good Delivery has large bars, kilo bars, 100-gram bars. That comes under the good delivery standard. Globally, otherwise, it's just the large bars that's been the standard. And we also have grains. So each of these, so when these refiners are accredited for the standards, they are actually accredited even for the bars or the form of bars that they produce in terms of the quality, the specifications, the specifications that's generally been defined there. So that's what makes UAE good delivery stand out from rest of any of the other standards, if I had to put it that way. So as of now, in from UAE, there are two refiners who are accredited for UAE good delivery. Globally, we have about five refiners, and there are other three foreign institutions which are accredited. Uh, the difficulty of attaining the standard can be easily seen from the number of refiners that are accredited within UAE. It's estimated that there are about 30 refiners in 30 odd refiners in UAE. Abid says that it's much more. So there are 30 odd refiners in UAE, but it's just the two refiners who are accredited for the standards, which requires them to. There's a net worth criteria and then years of operation. So wherein they and then they'll have to produce their compliance report, the assurance statement, and the management report with all the country of origin details. These are the various information that they'll have to provide us, and there's also a public disclosure that that every refiner does. So that's in nutshell. I took about 3 minutes on that, explaining on what UAE good delivery. So there's been something beyond UAE good delivery that's happened in UAE, whereby it's mandated that every refiner in UAE has to follow response sourcing rules uh, under the new regulations. So, being a bit technical, let me just read it out here for your for ease. So, Minister of Economy, which is interested with the supervision and regulation of DNFBPs, that's the designation non-financial business and professions operating in the UAE, which includes the dealers in precious metals and stones sector. So the cabinet decision number 3 bar 1F of 2019 and its amendment cabinet decision designated the MOE with the supervision and regulation of DNFBPs, including those entities operating in the commercial free zones, as well as the issuance of regulations and guidelines and the implementation of measures to ensure adherence to this AML CFT obligations under the AML CFT legislation. So, in nutshell, this in nutshell, this response sourcing regulations comes within the AML CFT regulations that's under the MOE, which means non-adherence has various administrative penalties that comes in for the refiners who are not, which again brings in a complete or rather helps closing the loop here with respect to response sourcing, because all the supply chain within UAE will be certified from this year onwards, which the refineries that are going to be operating be certified for response sourcing. And that was made through a regulations again, which came into effect from February 1st, 2023, where the businesses who import and import for re-export to UAE local market must attest the commercial invoices of the imported goods valued at AED 10,000 or above, and pay 150, let's say 150 dirhams service charges also to it. And these attestations are done by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. This again brings in or plugs the loophole of from where any consignment is coming from anywhere from the world, whether it's gold or precious stones, metals, or currencies, any of it. And further to plug into on the hand carried gold, not to plug, to bring in a lot more transparency, I would say. The Federal Authority of Identity and Citizenship, Customs and Port Security in the UAE mandated declaration of currency, precious metals, or any financial asset of over $16,000, which means that 8 ounces of gold. Okay. So if you're bringing it, that again has to be reported. So that's in short about what UAE has done in just in last 2 years in terms of bringing in the regulations and pushing in the response sourcing in the UAE market. So let's hear more on the Indian market and how the Indian markets are progressing on this front. So this discussion I would put in two fronts. One, based on the market expectation, what the market actually expects. Second will be on the policy framework over last 12 years on this subject. So Premnath, let me. Premji, so what are the key challenges you would, if you have to start off summarizing the beginning, or the key challenges that the Indian refining is being facing?
In the supply chain, the gold refiners in India, basically they are depending on the feed of gold dore bars and also the locally available gold scrap, jewelry scrap and articles scrap. So far as the gold dore bar import is concerned, so they have to follow the guidelines of the DGFT. They have to follow the guidelines of the customs. They have to also follow the guidelines of PMLA for the local, because they are the precious metal dealers. So they have to follow the guidelines of PMLA also, for precious metal, Prevention of Money Laundering Act and CFT guidelines. So, since these uh, refineries are to be also accredited by the BIS, so they have to follow the guidance of BIS, and the NABL accreditation is also required for the refiner. So these are different guidelines which are to be adhered to. So first of all, the DGFT guidelines I would like to take up in the brief. So first thing is that the packing list has to be given by the mining company, and the shipment of the dore bars has to be also done from the mining country only. Third is that the weight of the bar should not be less than 5 kilo, and the minimum purity should not be more than 95%. Maximum purity should not be more than 95% of the dore bar which is to be imported. So all these guidelines have to be adhered to for this thing. Apart from this, customs says that they have to also follow the IGCR rules. And this is subject to the actual user conditions, and they have to also follow IGCR rules. So, which means that whatever the duty differential they are getting, 0.65%, they have to give bond for that, and then finally, when everything is done, then they have to get that released. So these are the DGFT and custom guidelines. Apart from this, they have to follow, because they are the precious metal dealers, so they have to follow the money laundering and CFT guidelines, wherein they have to do proper KYC, due diligence, and they have to do the screening test of their clients as well as of their suppliers, where from they are importing. In case of scrap collection, they have to also do proper due diligence, where from they are collecting, who are the their sellers, whosoever is selling. They have to do the proper checklist, who are the ultimate beneficiaries. In case of the suppliers, they have to see whether that supplier exists on record or not. It should not happen that they are just doing for this sake of routing through the mining company and arranging dore from somewhere else. So all those things are to be taken care of.
So you think these are challenges, or these are good to be there in the market for?
No, you see, these are the guidelines which have to be followed. So for precious metals, in fact, enhanced due diligence is required in any case. So they have to follow, if they have to be in this business, they have to follow these guidelines. Otherwise, they don't have to be in this business at all.
That being said, Kinjal, and since 2019, I would say, refiners been some of the refiners have started looking to considering the response sourcing, and RJC has been leading it since 2020, I suppose 2019, for the refiners in the refined sector. So, could you throw lights on how the industry has been adopting it, and the COP and the COC? There's some of the technical terms, if you could explain that, and how many refiners who are actually importing good volume of good dore are certified for COC, and how many are only in COP? So.
Okay, so thank you very much. Thanks, Sudis. Thanks, Haris, and team for calling me here and inviting me. So, I can say RJC has started, published the standards in 2009, and now we are kind of 17, 18 years old organization. But however, as you have said very rightly, the awareness in the Indian audience, whether it is stakeholders, government, or any institutes, or even gold refiners, it is like very much from 2019 onwards. Something I'm 100% sure OECD has been very, very important, in driving this awareness. And what we have is that we have created the standards for not only for gold, but it is our standards includes gold, silver, platinum metal, diamonds, and color gemstones, and from mines to retail. So that's probably the differentiation of our standard, because which is into entire supply chain, and we cover the entire spectrum. Now, as you said, terms of COP and COC. So our standards, as if we have two standards. One is COP, which is Code of Practices, which mainly focuses on management practices. How any company should have their management practices and what they should cover, which basically includes ethical business practices, the proper due diligence of their sourcing, not only sourcing, but also the human rights, which is absolutely very important and integral part in OECD also. But at the same time, we also cover health and safety, employment legislative requirements, and environmental requirement as well. So when anybody implements code of practices, which is basically a mandatory standard, so any and every member who joins, which is right now 1800 plus members in RJC worldwide, they have to compulsory comply with the code of practices, which focuses on management practices. Whereas chain of custody, which is COC, very, very famous COC, which focuses on traceability of the metal. It is mainly only for metal. It's not for diamonds and color gemstone. It's for gold, silver, and platinum metal, and which focuses on the traceability of the metal from where it came and where it's going. So it's A to Z traceability of the entire pipeline, and also very, very deeply focuses on due diligence. Due diligence is the one element which we have added in 2019, and because we have a mandate in RJC, we have to revise our standard on every 5 years basis, and we are right now also in revision mode, and which will definitely take care of, the gentleman has said, enhanced due diligence. So due diligence is absolutely one of the concern for industry, and we know that it has to be done in a phased manner approach. When we have implemented in 2019, we did not force them to do it now and now. We gave them phased manner approach, so they implemented in 3 years time. However, now we are going to enhance it, because yes, that is the way it should be. And the most important thing is that RGC is basically run by industry. It is, we very proudly say that it is a standard made by industry for industry. We have a board of directors from the elected members, those who are industry representatives. So we do open consultation, and also that's why it is more of inclusion rather than exclusion of any specific term or any specific stream, basically, because our standard is for mine to retail for everyone. When we talk about Indian implementation and how India are taking it, Indian gold refiners or gold industry is taking it, basically now I'm kind of completing 9 years with RJC, and my first 4 years in RJC, which were very, very tough to even speak to any of the gold industry people, because that time the mindset was very, very different. They were not open to implement anything extra. Even they were probably that time facing difficulty even to implement the government mandate legislations. But now it has changed. It has changed definitely through the help of institutes and and also it's like all the exchanges have made it mandate kind of for them to if they want to become a India Good Delivery List program eligible gold refiners. It is one of the mandate for them to implement OECD due diligence alignment, and that's the reason why everyone is like more keen and do implementation. Now, when we talk about COP and COC numbers, which you have asked, I would just like to go through. So around, we have around 76 members, those who are COP certified across the globe. So we can say around 80 gold refiners are a member of Responsible Jewellery Council, or maybe more, because 76 are certified, out of which 5 members are certified in India. And I can say that this 5 members, those who are certified under COP in India, it is probably mainly driven by this incentive of either MCX or BSC, or they want to be on a Gunya Good Delivery List program list. And there are also few gold refiners, those who are in this list because they eventually want to get into that. So it is more of a commercial, driven. Whereas if we talk about chain of custody, so in gold refiners category, we have around 61 chain of custody gold refiners across the globe. Whereas in India, we have only 1 right now. And there are a couple of others, those who are in process of implementing it. So chain of custody is definitely, being famous in India, and it's been instrumental. But why it has been instrumental in people, implementing chain of custody? So when I talk about chain of custody numbers for gold refiners is 61, but
India it's only 1.
yeah, India is 1. But when I talk about jewelry manufacturers company, those who are under chain of custody certified, worldwide there are 267 companies. So that means it's a very clear mandate for jewelry companies to source COC certified goods from the gold refiners or from the people, those who can provide them, and eventually they can supply this chain of custody gold or metal to the larger brands. So all major larger brands right now, if you see, couple of months, weeks back, Pandora has made one announcement of they're only going to use recycled silver, which is a COC certified only. They have made it very mandate. Last year, second half last year, Prada has announced that.
I think that there are some good names from India as well, right?
Yeah. So of course. So I'm just talking about larger, big brands. But yes, of course, Indian companies have also mandated, chain of custody and recycle gold and recycle metal, because that is the way entire direction is heading towards, and people are talking more cautious about carbon footprint and all. There is a different topic, how
So we'll get
actually it is carbon footprint generating or not. But these are the numbers in a way I can talk, and there is a clear-cut demand that people need to improve upon their business practices. Business are not going to be as usual, which we have been running our business since ages, but now it's going to change. And those who will be in front, those who will be leaders, they will definitely gain advantage of early movers. Those who will follow, eventually they will be late in the queue, but it has to be done. So responsible practices needs to be followed. We are not for profit organization, and probably that is one of the reason why we are largely accepted in India. There are other standards also, but probably we have more intake in RJC membership from India, as well as also from UAE. So
right.
the 2 gold refiners which you have not named, but they were first RJC certified member, and now since you have
COC
opened
also.
up UAE Delivery, they joined you also. So likewise, RJC is kind of giving them a road map to initiate their processes and being more systemized. I must say that even if somebody don't want to become a member of RJC, I don't mind. Our all sources are open. They can go on website, download the documents, and
Yeah,
at
we'll get
least
that,
do their own, for the self-assessment. so that they will gauge how far they are.
Thank you, Kinjal. So talking about COC, so for the benefit of audience, globally the market deliverable, good market deliverable or the good delivery refiners are certified usually for COC and not for and they don't not limit themselves with COP. That's been standard. So we are still way behind because most of the refiners are still in the COP and not moved to the COC side. So that is where I want to talk, ask Arindam. And then we've been an ESG expert, also quite a lot worked on gold policies. I remember a good paper from you on the Indian refinery sector as well. Uh, then, so it's a good news that we have that COP, which looks into the human rights aspects, so it's been covered, but only by 5 refiners out of the 20 refiners here in India. So, how do you say, or how would you put that the gaps that exist in the industry, and why is it that the industry do not want to prioritize at the does not want to keep it at the highest priority? And how do we fill those expectations from the industry on that?
Right. So I would what we have been already Mr. Kinjal spoke about. Responsible sourcing is something that he spoke about, and also the RGC factor. So let me continue first a little bit on that. If you look at it, the responsible sourcing and RGC, or for that matter, any of the practices that has now come into account, are typically good practices. I mean, they're not new. It's something of an ethical business that has existed over the years. Some people followed it, some people did not follow it because it was not a regulatory mandate. Now the norm has been that you have to kind of go ahead and follow them, because the buyers or the investors have become more conscious, and they want clean goods, so to say. If you look at your responsible sourcing, so Mr. Kinjal also spoke about the OECD, responsible source goods. So what OECD came out with in 2011 were 9 guiding principles, which includes human rights. It included labor rights. It included governance mandate, which included disclosures. There were bribery and some amount of environmental consciousness, among other. There are 4 more. They have updated this in last year, in 2023, and they have added the 4 more new factors, or rather guidelines, which are kind of to align with the global goals, example, the SDG goals, or for that matter, the Paris Climate 2015 conference, whatever has been discussed over there, and some of the other labor laws, so the labor laws formed by ILO, or the codes that have been given by the ILO. Similarly, there have been other guidelines which included your technology, because now technology has become a part of it. So you have blockchain, you have AI coming into account, and data will be collected. So you have to ethically use the data. You cannot use the data for something which can harm the buyer, or for them to harm the consumer. So you have to be very careful about that. Disclosures again has been heightened. Disclosures about transparency of organization, how the dealings are done, your board members. I mean, like how you have mandatory women on the board as a part of it. You have clean business practices. You have, when you do pricing, you have to have arm's length distance from pricing mandates. And apart from that, other such kind of corporate social responsibility, to say as such. On the national front, the government came out with the voluntary guidelines for this responsible business practices. This was in 2019, and in fact, this entire responsible business practices have been over the years, refined from your Company Act, which included CSR, the BSR norms of investing, listing on exchanges, and other such rules. So, again, good practices. Earlier, these practices were not mandates, so people would follow them, would not follow them. But going ahead, now that the new age investor or buyer, they are becoming more and more. They want clean product. They want responsible products. So you have to kind of fall in the line because you do not have any other options. Hence, going ahead, the term of ESG has been coined, and what we are going ahead to kind of hear more and more about it. So ESG is nothing but environmental, social, and governance. So let me talk how this is going to impact the industry. And I'll actually kind of, because Mr. Kinjal already covered the front chain, which kind of include the refiners and the miners. Let me go on to the next in the line, which is manufacturers, your retailers, carriers, and exporters. So if you look at it, even under the responsible sourcing guidelines issued by the OECD, there is one of the point which talks about the supply chain. So you have to basically source clean goods.
Sorry, could we get that on the policy framework side? Because this subject, can we get to the next session on the policy framework side?
Okay.
Okay, so this will help finish us on the first round, which looks into market expectations, because you covered quite a good ground on the ESG practices and so the largest refiner in India does who does 40 to 50% of the volumes, who kind of abides with most of these regulations voluntarily, and competing with the mass players. It's always been curious, how do you manage that commercial incentive for yourself to be running this refinery? Over to you, Siddharth.
So thank you so much and a very good afternoon to all. So I heard everyone and Mr. Premnath, very good points, and Kinjal and Arindam. So one of the things that I'm feeling, it's coming as if it's a burden. And when you said, how do you manage? You don't need to feel it's a burden. See, whatever these guidelines are, whatever these good practices are, these are the right things to do. And again, I'm new to this entire industry because I've been new to this MMTC PAMP and all only been 6 months. But one thing that I've definitely seen is whatever there is a term known as cost of compliance for these regulations,
exactly.
for these. The moment you start looking at it as a cost of compliance, you start thinking about the commercial aspects. What we do and what's engraved in the organization is it's not a cost of compliance, it's an investment towards the brand, it's an investment towards the trust. And it's all about the mindset. See, whatever are a part of all these regulations and I'll say all the good practices that comes from LBMA, be it today, it's just a matter of time. People will start asking you questions. Whether you are adhering to that, are you doing to that? People are evolving, people are questioning. So it's better to go ahead and have a process in place on day one itself, which abides by everything, gives you that confidence that your brand reputation will not get impacted. Because if you go through all those, I'll say, good practices, each and every one of them, if not adhered to, can have a huge impact on the brand. And at MMTC PAM, we are very, very, I'll say, particular about our brand image. So, as I said, be it LBMA, be it the RJC guidelines, these are not a cost of compliance to us. It's about an investment that we are making towards our brand, towards our trust, so that whenever a customer thinks about us, he doesn't need to have any question in the mind about it. He just knows that, okay, whatever investment he's making, it's in the right area.
So, in a nutshell, you're saying, as an organization or every other refiner, they should rather look at how do they build the refinery brand with supports of our ESG and the responsible sourcing guidelines.
See, I'll not talk about the other refiners. I'll be more about
Yeah.
happy to talk about us. Yes, when you talk about us, definitely for us, this is one of those stepping stones wherein we are comfortable with the processes that we have implemented. We are comfortable and proud that yes, we are the only LBMA certified refiner in India. And at the same time, we know that at the end of the day, our customers are comfortable when they are going ahead and dealing with us. So that's in a nutshell, and at least we can have a good night, peaceful sleep. Let me put it that way.
Thanks. Arindam, that yes, you want to add something?
Just to add into what he has said, Siddharth said, cost of compliance. Yes, everyone talks about cost of compliance. Gold industry is like very recently joined that club. I've been hearing this from jewelry and diamond industry since ages. The only difference is that people feel that I'm doing everything for compliance, which is a cost. Ideally, they have to think that if, as per the Indian legislation, whatever you have to do mandatory to run your business, that is your duty to do business. Okay. On top of that, whatever you are doing, that might be considered as a cost of compliance. Most of the companies have zero compliance even to the legislative requirements, and when they start
And upgrade the car every year.
yeah. Yes, and update the car every year, and they feel that okay, now somebody is asking me and now I'm doing everything, so this is entirely my cost of compliance. No, brother, your cost of compliance, you cannot say that mandatory business requirement plus additional cost, it's not cost of compliance. Cost of compliance can be only termed as okay, whatever the mandated by government, that's what I have to do. Up till now I'm not doing it. You cannot add that into cost of compliance. So if you have that kind of mentality, then you will definitely you are going to be one step ahead of uh, on how you are going to comply it, how early you are going to be compliant.
Okay, good. So, Arindam, now looking to the you want to add something? There?
Yeah,
Yeah,
something,
right.
yeah. You see, so far as the cost is concerned, I think even though there may not be mandatory things to do in India, but if you do over and above, as we were discussing, there is an advantage also on that front. For example, when I was in Scotia Bank, there were some clients of exporters of jewelry who used to come to us that they want to buy only from the bank who is having getting gold from responsible sourcing. So they don't want to buy jewelry from the clients who are getting from some other
That's right,
sources
yeah.
who are not so responsible. So I mean, and now I find some silver jewelry exporter also. So their clients are saying, yeah, they want only recycled silver for environmental beneficial. So they want a certificate that the silver which they are procured for manufacturing of jewelry is recycled out of the recycled silver, so that they are more protection, thinking of more protection about the environment. So these benefits. Now Dore bar supply, another thing. Dore bar supply is in a very tight situation. Only MMTC PAM, because they are the largest, they are LBMA accredited, so they have got a good supply base of getting Dore bars. Whereas the other miners are struggling for getting the Dore bars because of maybe the suppliers who are having responsible sourcing, those suppliers who are accredited by the LBMA, miners who are accredited by the LBMA, those may not be so comfortable in supplying to the others one. So they have got a huge supply base, they can get supply. So for getting good supply of Dore, which is for which they are struggling, they have to, first of all, they have to be responsible themselves, in adhering to responsible in terms of the environment, in terms of the pollution control, in terms of the labor laws, and also in terms of the PMLA. So they have how they are adhering to their enhanced due diligence for their clients, which they are handling to where they are selling gold, and how they are handling for their suppliers where from they are getting the Dore and other materials for getting that material refined. So all these things are very important. So I think screening test is also very, very important thing. So, where screening test for the sanction list of the United Nations and sanction list given by the Home Ministry. So that is also very important to screen how, who are the promoters, who are the, ultimate beneficiary owners, all those names, individual as well as the entities. They have to cover the screening test for all. If there is any single entity which is coming in the screening in the sanction list, so they have to avoid that kind of a thing.
So actually, you have kind of answer on the question that I was going to ask you about. How do we create wings for the India good delivery, which is highly localized, and if you are to start looking to export and because of UAGD and India Good Delivery, that's been a kind of cross recognition, the CIPA agreement. So the suggestion that you said,
Yeah.
recommendation that you put across, are they actually the one that's going to support
Yes,
the India Good
absolutely.
Delivery?
Absolutely,
And
because for India Good
to
Delivery
make it a
bar
globally acceptable
is
standard.
for the supply to the for the MCX or NSE, for the local exchanges, that is good for them, which are India Good Delivery bars. But if we have to go globally, then of course we have to meet the global standards.
Yeah.
So ultimately, attempt should be that, and the first thing should be the self-regulatory organization (SRO), which we are talking about, which is going to come very soon. And to start with that, because if we make it mandatory that that LBM accredited or OECD guidelines, everybody has to follow. So immediately that may not be, I think, practical to begin with. But of course, the direction is clear that self-regulatory organization, OECD, then LBMA accreditation.
Shuvanshu and okay, yeah. Ashok ji, Boli. Hey, the mic.
No, just to sort of ensure that we are all on the same page. While the MCX good delivery norms are technically based around the BIS and NABL, and it has various eligibility criteria, we also have responsible sourcing as an imperative portion of they being impaneled on MCX. And let me tell you, and the rule is that they have to be in line with the OECD guidelines. They have to be carrying a certificate within a stipulated time period from an auditor who is OECD compliant, be it RJC, be it RMI, or whatever else it may be. And let me tell you, those local domestic refiners, 5 of them have, after rigorous rounds of audit where RJC teams have visited, they have attained those certificates. So we are we are witness to that sort of an evolution going on in Indian refining, non-LBMA Indian refining. Yeah.
Right. Hi, Ashok.
Can I just quickly, so what Kinjal mentioned and what Premji mentioned, and I think that's the point also emerging. And during my discussion also with the industry players, this point is coming, where for some of the exporters of jewelry, gold and silver, this recycled gold and recycled silver is something which is coming up. So, in fact, they actually asked me, can we launch a contract which is only for the recycled gold or a recycled silver? So that's where again we'll have to interact with RJC and some of the other industry experts to understand, because they are saying these kind of certificates which must be there so that when they're exporting. So some of the very big brand names, they only touch the recycled gold, the global fashion brand names and all. So is there a kind of a global practice somewhere on any exchange or anywhere you have seen that the recycled certificate is something which is part of a contract which is traded? So this is something which we have, we are thinking about it. It's not there, but something about the dore which I am very keen, because if dore is, you say, is an issue in India, we have the refinery, so there's one, but there are many other, and if it can also be looked at to connect with the responsible sourcing and other best practices, miners. Can we think of something like dore contract in whichever shape and form on the IBX, so that these kind of entities, they look at IBX for a gateway of the dore to India? But these are some of the things which we have been debating and discussing, but good that they came up in this discussion also, so that we carry this forward.
So see, it's
Harish
very much
Acharya, yeah.
possible. Just to add, it's very much possible, and recycle metal, not only gold, recycle gold or silver. It will be definitely going to. It will be driving the entire show, because there is a huge awareness on carbon footprint, how and this year has been like more on a climate change people are talking about. And this is which is adding lot of pressure. There are a lot of major brands who have mandated it, and when any gold refiner or any company make a claim without actually conforming or undergoing certification or by external audit, which will be actually called a false claim. So, RJC has already created this platform, and, of course, we are very much happy and open to discuss what we can do.
Hello.
Right.
Can I
Harish,
speak?
yeah, yes, sir.
सर सॉरी आई एम स्पीकिंग इन हिंदी सर
please.
प्लीज सर मैं 96 से बिजनेस कर रहा हूँ. 2008 से मैं स्मॉल स्केल रिफाइनर था. 2017 से मैं लार्ज स्केल रिफाइनर हूँ. मैं आरजीसी ऑडिटेड रिफाइनरी भी है मेरा. और मैं बहुत सालों से देख रहा हूँ, यानी जब 2011-12 में जब भी रिफाइनरी इंडिया के लिए ओपन कर दिया गया, उसके बाद के पीरियड में जितने भी अब उस टाइम पे जो फर्स्ट रिफाइनरी था वो भी एमएमटीसी पैम्प था, और आज 2024 में भी जो फर्स्ट रिफाइनरी है वो एमएमटीसी पैम्प ही है. क्यों नहीं आए दूसरे रिफाइनर, और क्यों नहीं आ रहे हैं, वो एक सबसे बड़ा क्वेश्चन मार्क है. क्योंकि मैं देख रहा हूँ कि 30 बड़े माइनर्स हैं, जो बेरिक, एंग्लो गोल्ड, जो भी आप जानते हैं, और 12 बड़े रिफाइनर हैं. ये टोटल 50 लोगों का एक समूह है. वो पूरा वर्ल्ड के ऊपर एलबीएमए मार्क का एक मोनोपोली रख रहा है. क्योंकि आज की डेट में भी 22 ऐसे रिफाइनर हैं जो रो में खड़े हुए हैं एलबीएमए होने के लिए, मगर उनको एक्रीडेशन नहीं दिया जा रहा है बहुत बड़े टाइम से. इवन अब तो 2016-17 का जो एक्रीडेशन है वो भी टिल नाउ अभी तक नहीं हुआ है. आप अपना लिस्ट भी देख सकते हो, एलबीएमए साइड में भी जाके देख सकते हो. तो आप, ये बहुत बड़ा क्वेश्चन है कि आज हम इंडिया में बैठते हैं, हमारा एक्सचेंज है जो एमसीएक्स एक्सचेंज है वो वर्ल्ड का 3rd लार्जेस्ट एक्सचेंज है. हम एलबीएमए कॉन्ट्रैक्ट चलाते हैं और इंडिया गुड डिलीवरी एक्सेप्ट भी नहीं कर रहे हैं आज की डेट में लार्ज बार्स के लिए, 1 kg बार्स के लिए या 30 kg सिल्वर बार्स के लिए. तो ये हम इसको पहले, हमारा अंदर का क्या गलती रह गया है कि हम जो आज कल जैसे हम जाते हैं एलबीएमए के पास के पहले आप 12th पास करके आ जाओ फिर आपको नौकरी मिलेगा. फिर हम बोलेंगे कि ग्रेजुएशन पास करके आ जाओ आपको नौकरी मिलेगा. फिर बोलेंगे कि एमबीए होके आओ फिर आपको नौकरी मिलेगा. फिर पीएचडी करके आओ. सारे एलिमेंट्स हम पार करके जब क्वालिफाइड हो जाते हैं फिर भी हम जाके रो में ही खड़े रहते हैं.
नहीं,
तो ये क्या रीजन है सिद्धार्थ जी से? और अच्छा, ये कौन सा फार्मूला है या कौन सी मिठाई है जो हमको भी बेरिक को हम खिलाएंगे तो हमको डोरे मिलना शुरू हो जाएगा? तो वो भी कौन सी, वो भी आप बताइए, तो वो भी हम लोग वो भी ट्राई कर ले. तीसरा क्वेश्चन ये है, मैं खत्म कर दूंगा, कि क्या हम आज यूएई से बिजनेस कर रहे हैं, यूएई इंडिया से है, तो इंडिया गुड डिलीवरी और यूएई गुड डिलीवरी का हम इंटीग्रेशन कर सके कि हम एक दूसरे की कंट्री में हमारा गोल्ड बेच सके या ला सके. ये आपके लिए क्वेश्चन है, तो प्लीज आप.
So,
Would you want me to respond in Hindi or?
Anyway,
Siddharth, if I could, to be,
No, so I'll just take a minute because it sounded as if MMTC PAMP is stopping the LBMA thing and all. So, no. So I'll
you are
just.
the first refiner,
Yeah.
and right now you are also the first, only
see,
one refiner.
Yes.
MTC PAMP.
Yeah. So we were the first refiner, and as I said, जब मैं बात कर रहा था कि on the day one we made it very clear to ourselves that whatever process we do, we have to follow it through those key guidelines that enabled us, number one, to go ahead and get to that I'll say spot wherein we got that certification. And there has been a continuous improvement that we are doing because these guidelines keep on improving, they keep on gained again and again. And I'll be very honest, let me tell you my perspective, it's not that easy. जब भी LBMA आता है या RJC आता है, पूरी की पूरी टीम्स इंटरनली आर लाइक कि सेल्फ ऑडिट करो, ये करो. अब नए क्यों नहीं आ रहे, आई कांट दे, बट ओनली थिंग आई वुड से इज व्हाटएवर आर दोस गाइडलाइंस, इफ वी गो अहेड एंड फॉलो देम टू द टी, एंड एज आई सेड, इट नीड्स टू बी एम्बेडेड. इट नीड्स टू बी अ पार्ट कि हाँ, ये मैं सिर्फ सर्टिफिकेशन के लिए नहीं कर रहा, आई एम डूइंग इट फॉर माई ब्रांड. डेफिनेटली थिंग्स वुड इम्प्रूव. Just shorten it because I know we are running out of time.
Yeah. So to keep it short, Vasubhai, it works this way. OECD principles, the first one, company management policy, supply chain management policy. यहाँ पर how many companies here actually have a proper supply chain management policy? Second is about identifying the risk. Third is about mitigating the risk. So वैसा policies अब तक कोई companies लिया नहीं है as a first step. So a good example again, I can talk about UAGD at least. As I was saying, we have about 30 plus refiners. सिर्फ 2 रिफाइनरी क्यों वो स्टेटस दिया गया है सिर्फ UAGD का, बाकी रिफाइनर्स को क्यों नहीं दिया है? There are various refiners who are asking for UAGD, but we can't be just giving it out. They need to have a certain policies in place, right? So once these refiners qualify themselves, work towards it, have an internal mandate, have the employees trained for it, and have a structure in place, it will not work. Today we are talking about LBMA version 9, LBMA guidelines. Version 9 is what now they are possibly thinking about the new version that's going to come up in next year also. So versions keep changing. So yeah, and how strong, how good your company is how good each refiner is in terms of understanding these changes in the version, and how swift they are in adapting towards it is where the challenge is. So industry never wants. So today you look at it globally, there are 70 refiners certified for LBMA, and it has come down from 77 or so. They could have kept it at 77 itself, right? Why they have been reducing? Because the companies who are not following the policy, they have been cutting them down from the standards. So it's up to the refiners who need to move up than trying to look at, okay, why we are not entitled for it. It's not an entitlement that one gets. Entitlement is here one gets it, sheer work towards where they want to position themselves globally.
I think, sir, just
Yeah.
to add, SPMICL, which is the government refinery, even they haven't got LBMA, despite of applying it almost like thrice.
Yeah, I've been getting signals to wrap it up fast.
Can I take a minute, Sudesh?
Yeah.
Can
yeah.
I take a minute? Sorry. Again, this is based out of my experience experience in terms of consultancy and advisory with a whole lot of PSUs and other organizations within India. The one thing that I repeatedly hear, in the golden sector, which we know also, which has been repeatedly said, the cost of compliance, transparency, ethics. These are all some of the things that we are speaking about. Whether it is, the outsider, LBMA keeping you stand outside, or even within the country itself. The only one thing that differentiates between one jeweler and the other one, between one trader and the other one. To me, the only one differentiator would be the trust factor. And when you say that's a trust factor, with other consultancy, when we have done this with PSUs, I did a lot of work with corruption and anti-corruption and all those
Yes,
things. That is my big interest, right? Laundering, corruptions. So there we have repeatedly said you should never look at compliance and auditing as an added thing. It is not an added thing. It is not a cost of compliance, cost of auditing. We said this adds to your competitive advantage. This adds to, in fact, we have said this to quite a number of big organizations. We have said your supply chain becomes more efficient, you become more competitive if you are going to do this compliance auditing, etc., etc. Somehow, that part, somehow in this gold sector, I think it is seriously missing. It's not a question, perhaps it's an observation. And so that part is missing. Unless otherwise you show the benefit to either a miner or a trader or a refinery or anybody, unless you show the benefit, nobody is going to come into that ambit. So
Sir.
I have a small observation again from the point of view of the Commerce Ministry. The Gems and Jewellery Association, the Gems and Jewellery Export Promotion Council has 7,500 members. And looking at the figures that you're throwing of COP, COC, whatever, any type of accreditation, we are in single digits. So what I want to understand from all the stakeholders here, and this is a big research topic, how do you motivate, how do you make people aware? 7,500 in single digits. I mean, it's a huge gap. The entire purpose of this seminar should be this. Thank you.
Yeah. So I can tell you, I can give you one figure that you're absolutely right. The numbers are very tiny, 4-digit to 2 digits. In India also, we have like 250 plus members. But if we check in real sense, in terms of value, RJC has covered 90% of, exports which is happening from India. Those companies have been covered. So value-wise, it has been all covered. Globally, we claim that out of like $164 billion turnover in gems and jewelry industry, $100 billion turnover, companies are from RGC certified members. Because see, it's a mandate, and as you said rightly.
More details of.
Yeah. For exports, it's kind of a mandate,
I have one
So-
query to Premnath ji.
Ramki, some questions. Can we have it?
Okay.
So I think because I'm actually overshot by 15 minutes. Nevertheless, thanks so much for keeping it really engaging. The last, as a closing bit, if I had to ask, like, should India consider just the way UAE moved into a mandatory response sourcing regime? Should India take the similar path? Should there be regulations come in within the AML CFT, possibly the AML CFT in India, bring it under the AML CFT? Should that be the way forward? Yes or no? Simple.
Yes, absolutely. I agree that it should be there because that is how the world, that is where the world is moving forward, and we need to kind of adopt the same practices if we want to stay in business.
Premnath?
I think ultimately objective is the same, that we have to move towards that direction. It may not be on immediate basis, but it could be in a phased manner.
So that, of course, is yes for me.
So we can move anyways. No, so as a company policy, we don't talk
Yeah,
about the policy reforms. But personally, if you ask me, in my personal opinion, it'll give a level playing field. And again, happy to have more and more people because it gives us an opportunity to do some mind sharing as well, just ahead of LBMA and RJC.
So in my opinion, if you don't think about personal, like individual companies, as a brand, India brand, we must do it. Even though I represent the international standard, I completely feel that India should come up with the standard so that it will raise the bar of India. Indian say even in the gold prices, which we have heard from in the morning, that only 3 countries have a say in gold prices. If we want to really, stay there, we really need to behave a different way. And I guess this is the only different way to behave. We
Right.
have to, we have to
Thank
be
you.
on a top in a game
Thanks,
as
Kinjal.
India.
So, unlike other panel discussions with IGPC, always it's all about wrapping up the discussion with one or two new ideas that one could research on. So, something that I figured out is like looking at the branding and the ESG in the gold, at least in the refining sector. So that could be one topic, and the other is again the cost of compliance is a topic that could be further researched on in the refining industry. So, thank you.
Till the time you keep on talking about this word cost of compliance, I'm telling you things would not change. We have to go ahead and start thinking that what's the right way to do. And I'm being very honest. The moment we start talking about cost and compliance, things would not change.